today. Hey, everybody. I'm sorry that people on Facebook did not get to see this. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to restart everything. We're going to start this from the top so that everybody on Facebook is allowed to be able to see this. So let's start again. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. So you probably could hear me, but you couldn't see me because this is the first time that I've used Facebook here. I'm not very tech savvy. I just want to go ahead and tell you right now. Kara Shirley's off this week, but because people from Facebook, we've got several watching right now, are just joining us, and because they're just now seeing some of what we're talking about here, we're going to go ahead and restart this story. This is a WLBT exclusive, by the way. You can already see a lot of this on our website, but we want to tell you what's going on. We've been following the bribery scandal here in Jackson for some time, since we first saw the FBI raids in May of last year. We've been following it more closely than anybody else in the area. And now we have new documents that you've never seen before that we are looking at for the first time too, that reveal more about the scandal, and specifically donations that were made to Jackson's mayor under the guise of actual donations. But can't hear me at all? I'm not on? Okay, well, I'm on Facebook.
You're on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. And I routed to the right, yeah.
All right. Let's see what's up.
Okay. So everybody, apparently we're broadcasting live on Facebook, but we're not broadcasting live somewhere else. So we're just going to keep talking about this story and go ahead and get this out of the way, and hopefully we can get everything else situated. We have tried. I apologize for these technology hiccups, but everybody on Facebook can hear you. Facebook can hear me. Thank you so much. And see, here's the thing. So you guys can hear me, and this is not weather related, Brandy. We're talking about the top stories of the day. Typically, that's what we do at 1 o'clock, talking about some of the top stories that we know that you need to. We want to make sure that you know about things that we've aired here, new information that you haven't heard before, things like that. The problem is that with our equipment here, whether or not we're broadcasting on Facebook is separate from whether or not we're broadcasting through the WLBT app. And as of right now, apparently we are not broadcasting through that. And so one of my coworkers, my colleagues, is trying to figure out why that's not happening. So I'm grateful that y'all can hear me on Facebook. I'm glad that at least some of what we're trying to broadcast out here today is getting out. So that's good. But again, we're talking about this bribery scandal and this new information that we got today in the form of campaign finance reports that the mayor has filed. If you'll remember, before when we were trying to figure out all of this with regard to the bribery scandal, the implication from federal investigators was that the mayor, Chokwe Antar Lumumba, had received $50,000 in what was believed to be campaign donations to his reelection campaign fund, but was actually money given to him by these developers that were actually FBI agents. And that money was in order for him to do something, to move a deadline back. And so, yeah, Holly, we'll have weather later today, but not right now. No, we're not going to have any weather right now at this point. We don't have meteorologists coming in. But I will tell you that, so we actually have proof of that today. So we actually got the campaign finance reports, and we were able to see these donations. So we'll go ahead and kind of give you a little bit of a refresher if you're not familiar with the story, if you're not familiar with what's been going on. When the FBI made these indictments public back in November, you may remember seeing this. This was actually one of the photos that was given. This is Hinds County DA Jody Owens on the right, Mayor Lumumba on the left, receiving those $50,000 in funds, and then him making a phone call here, presumably to move a deadline back for developers that were involved in this project. Now, those developers turned out to be undercover FBI agents, and records show that proof now of these 5 payments we're actually seeing now where these payments went and who they went to. And we want to show you that. So this is what we're seeing at this point. $10,000 on these campaign finance documents went to the mayor from the Downtown Cigar Company. Now, that is a business owned by DA Jody Owens that was actually raided by the FBI a month after this donation was made. Another came from Perinatal Services, PLLC. Now, that's a business connected to Owens and his wife, Michelle. This is the first time that there's been an implication throughout all this where there was a tie to her. She has not been charged. Michelle is an OBGYN. She serves on the Mississippi State Board of Medical Licensure. The third payment came from Sharik Marvey Smith. You may remember Smith was one of the individuals. He was a business partner of Jody Owens, and he would plead guilty to bribery months later in federal court. $10,000. I should say two. I apologize for that. It's $10,000 from Kevin J. May, and then $10,000 from Carrie L. Young, a business tied to Owens. So these, when we're trying to look at this right now, and again, this federal investigation is ongoing. What we're seeing at this point is that most of these donations that were made to the mayor came from either businesses associated with Owens or individuals associated with him. In the case of the Carrie L. Young business, that was a business that was registered with the Secretary of State. We did some digging on that. It's registered to a Bobby Owens, which appears to be a relative of Jody. So it looks like, at least to masquerade, kind of hide the actual source of these payments, the idea was to put that they were from a business, that they were from somebody else, that they were from somebody connected to this, in hopes that it would hide where they were truly from, which was the $50,000 payment allegedly for bribery. Now, you have to keep in mind here, this case is still ongoing. Jody Owens, Mayor Lumumba have pleaded not guilty to these federal charges. They await trial. You may remember back in August, former Councilwoman Angelique Lee pleaded guilty to accepting a bribe last year after resigning from office. And another council member, Ward 6's Aaron Banks, he faces bribery and conspiracy charges too. He has pleaded not guilty. And he and Owens and Lumumba, all three, remain in office. And because, this case continues to unfold, we are trying to make sure that we follow this. We're trying to just make sure that we keep on top of everything as it happens, because this is something that's very concerning to a lot of people. We've had a lot of people on Facebook saying that, hey, wondering why these individuals haven't resigned. It appears that all three are going to fight these charges. And we reported weeks ago that because the defense attorneys representing these three individuals say that it's actually going to be so extensive a case that they may not even see a trial date until 2026. So we could be looking at a case that stretches out for a long period of time. As you know, if you live in Jackson, the mayoral elections, the primaries are in April, the general elections in June. So it's a very good chance that Mayor Lumumba, who is running for re-election, should he be re-elected, could be in office again in his third term, while even before these this trial begins. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that we're going to keep in track and keep up with, and we want to make sure that and again, this is something that my colleague Anthony Warren and we went to pull these campaign finance reports this morning and wanted to make sure that we got this out here to you. We have reached out to Owens' attorney, Rob McDuff. He has not responded to our request for comment, but as soon as we get a statement from him or a comment on these developments, we'll let you know and we'll pass that on to you. We got some other stories that we want to actually get to also. This is one that we have been following. This is a police pursuit led to a manhunt in South Jackson. Well, the man who's the subject of this search still is at large today. Now, this all started last night when Capitol Police tried to stop a dark-colored SUV on Greenway Drive near Highway 18. Spokesperson Bailey Martin says when the vehicle failed to stop, they then pursued the driver. Martin says the driver then fled the scene, and officers established a perimeter to try and find him. Our photographer saw search dogs brought in as they tried to catch that driver. That man has not yet been captured, but here's what we know about his appearance. He is being described as a black male with locks, last seen wearing a dark-colored shirt and gray pants. If you have any information, please contact Capitol Police. A shocking report now that has not been confirmed, and it's drawing a lot of scrutiny at this point, linking human remains found in Carroll County with the disappearance of Ole Miss student Jay Lee. But the agency leading that investigation is disputing a key piece of information. So there's still a lot that we don't know at this point, but we are trying to find out more. We told you yesterday that hunters had stumbled upon human remains over the weekend. Well, Mississippi Today is now reporting that investigators found a gold necklace near those remains that bears Jay Lee's name, indicating that it could be his body. The Carroll County Sheriff says no member of his department has made any positive identification of those remains. Now, Lee disappeared back in 2022. He was eventually declared legally dead. Timothy Harrington Jr. was charged with capital murder, but his trial ended in a hung jury this past December. And of course, the retrial process will be will be underway at some point. Yes, I did. So, continuing now, here's a statement from Oxford Police saying basically at this point that the agency cannot comment until remains are positively identified. The chief there, though, Chief Jeff McCutcheon, did say, "Our main priority has always been to bring Jay Lee home. We, like the public, are anxiously awaiting updates and ask for patience as the investigative process unfolds." I want to tell you about something else too. In Holmes County, sheriff's deputies there investigating a homicide. Sheriff Willie March says it happened yesterday on Huckleberry Road near Durant. He says 18-year-old Carterius Barksdale was shot multiple times. The sheriff says the shooter then stole Barksdale's SUV. Authorities are asking for your help in finding the 2004 white GMC Yukon. The tag number on your screen, HLC 532. If you have any information, please let deputies in Holmes County know. Well, Scott County deputies have arrested this man, a Forest man, for a homicide that took place last year. 19-year-old Adam Lee Gates charged with killing 18-year-old Donald Dwayne Anderson back in June 2024. Anderson's body was found by a man picking up cans at the end of Strong Road in Scott County. It took months to make a positive ID on Anderson's body. Sheriff Mike Lee says he believes Gates acted alone. Well, information unearthed by Jackson's city attorney, Drew Martin, could impact Hinds County's plans to charge the city for housing detainees at the county jail. Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba says the research found by the city's legal department likely supersedes the Board of Supervisors' recent decision on this matter. Now, Lumumba's comments come just days after 6 mayors signed an open letter to Hinds County supervisors raising concerns about the supervisor's decision to charge for housing detainees at the Raymond Detention Center. One of those concerns is whether those charges could be legally paid. So again, we're trying to follow this case. The Hinds County Board of Supervisors approved charging municipalities $50 a day to house detainees at the Raymond Detention Center back in August. That charge took effect October 1st. Mayor Lumumba reiterated other concerns raised by his fellow mayors in the letter, including how the county was assessing the charges. City leaders claimed they weren't notified of the decision until their current fiscal year budgets already began. They also argued that they couldn't legally pay the county, saying no agreements between the city and county had been made. Now, the mayor wouldn't say exactly what kind of information was found. Sources in the city say it's likely a previous agreement between the city and county setting the price the city would pay for detention services to Hinds County. In the meantime, Lumumba wouldn't speculate as to whether the matter would end up in court, saying it's too early to tell. Well, Mayor Lumumba is disputing a fire inspector's report at Thalhiamar Hall that found many problems still unaddressed at the facility. Now, the state's fire marshal's report, and again, this again is something that we've been following for some time. If you've been keeping up, Thalhiamar Hall has been closed for some time now, for months. The fire marshal's report was released the day before the auditorium was set to reopen to the public. Now, the mayor says that the report itself had numerous deficiencies. He says all of the photos in the report were from a September inspection and showed issues that had already been fixed. The mayor says the city is now pulling records to show that the elevator and escalator have indeed been serviced. You can see a copy of the most recent inspection on our website, Wlbt.com. Well, Jackson Water is preparing to undertake some big projects this year. You can expect to see small diameter water lines replaced along with improvements at the city's 2 treatment plants. Ted Hennepin, the interim third-party manager, says a multi-million-dollar project involves going into neighborhoods and replacing pipes that plague the entire system. He says the entire chemical feed system at the O.B. Curtis plant will be renovated, but that will require parts of the plant to be temporarily out of operation. I know we've got people saying we've having some sound issues. I apologize for that. But we're trying to watch the levels here and make sure that we're doing okay. We're going to go ahead and take a commercial very quickly, and we've got plenty more news coming up. I also look forward to mixing it up with you and hearing some of your comments or reading some of your comments. Actually, I see the Mike Magazine saying hi. It's good to see you. Your buddy Kara is not here today, but I am trying to fill in and do the best I can. So I appreciate you. We will be right back after this commercial. Hey everybody, welcome back. We have a lot more news to get to. A lot of stuff going on this week. And I mean, that's good, right? I mean, it's certainly job security for us. It means that we always have stuff to report on. I want to tell you about a fight that's going on right now between Madison, the city of Madison, and the city of Gluckstadt. A legal battle now underway between these two cities. Both seek to annex a large piece of property sandwiched between the two. You see it there. Well, it's a fight for more than 350 acres, 4 square miles worth of land that sits between the two cities. On Monday, a Madison County judge began hearing arguments to decide whose city limits will be increasing. Now, the city of Madison was the first to present its case using residents who live in the annexation area, but close to Gluckstadt Road. A member of the Belle Terre neighborhood, after taking a general survey from fellow residents, said that 97% want to be a part of the city of Madison rather than Gluckstadt. Neighborhoods along Bozeman Road also performed their own surveys and presented their case, stating their belief that Madison would likely not implement major developments near neighborhoods. Now, I'm making sure the audio is working here. Sorry, y'all. Now, after resident and property owner testimony, Mayor Mary Hawkins Butler took the stand and explained how the city of Madison has grown since she took office back in 1981. The city of Madison will likely take the next several days to provide their arguments. After they finish, Gluckstadt can lay its case out on why all this property should be incorporated into their city limits. Well, we have some bills in the legislature. It's kind of interesting. I want to tell you about today's deadline day, as you know. So it's going to be very important to see whether or not a lot bills proposed during this session get out of committee and whether they survive. The clips that we show have no sound. Okay, we'll work on that. So I apologize for that. I don't know why that's happening. We'll try to figure that out and see. I'll just bypass those sections where we have other people talking, so that way it doesn't look odd to anybody watching. So I want to tell you about this. Senate Education Committee is moving forward with a bill that would require school districts to ban or restrict cell phones in class. And again, we're tracking a lot of stuff coming through the legislature this session. Several districts in Mississippi currently have policies that actually range from students locking up cell phones to putting them in special lockers. Senate Bill 2151 leaves it up to the district to decide specifics. But in the event that they didn't adopt a ban or put a restriction on cell phones, they would start losing some of their state funding. The bill's author here says he believes it's something schools and parents understand. And again, this is something that's being looked at. We talked to State Senator Briggs Hobson, who basically said he's heard from others that when we've gotten cell phones out of classes, kids are interacting with each other a lot more, and it's so important for their development. He wants to focus more on what's going on in the classroom and not who's doing what on social media or who's texting about something. Now, a bell-to-bell cell phone ban was filed in the House but has not yet been brought out of the committee. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann has been outspoken about his desire to see some form of ban passed there. Bentley's Law, this may be something that you're familiar with. The deadline is rapidly approaching for a bill that would force drunk drivers to pay child support to the families whose whose families are killed in crashes. This is known as Bentley's Law. You may be familiar with it, you may not be, but it is something that lawmakers are going to be deciding today whether or not it survives. This law mandates that convicted impaired drivers pay child support until the surviving children turn 18. It's named for a young boy who lost his parents in a drunk driving collision in 2021. Republican State Representative William Arnold of North Mississippi and Republican Senator Angela Burks Hill of Picayune are sponsoring the legislation. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is urging lawmakers to pass it. By the way, we are going to continue to follow this. Check out our coverage tonight in our evening newscasts to see what ended up happening with this bill as we await lawmakers' final decisions on this. Well, we have some more news to tell you on the national front. You've seen some of these reactions from other countries to the tariffs proposed by President Trump, with Mexico and now Canada late yesterday getting a 30-day pause on when those tariffs would take effect by pledging to work with the U.S. on border security. Well, Europe bracing for potential trade showdown with the U.S. now as an American tariff on imports from China take effect today. Now, the president of the European Union, let me get this video for you here. The president of the European Union says she wants to start negotiations with the U.S. early. Meanwhile, President Trump says he plans to open dialogue with Beijing soon. Now, China is retaliating now that American companies must pay 10% extra for Chinese imports. Beijing is issuing tariffs on certain items from the U.S., creating export controls and also taking other action. President Trump, as we said earlier, says he's postponing 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico. Some economists have called those actions inflationary. The president says those countries have made concessions with regard to border security. Another story making national headlines involves the FBI. The agency is in the 11th hour now of deciding what to do as acting director Brian Driscoll is up against a deadline to respond to a Department of Justice demand. Sources within the DOJ, or say the DOJ, told him it wants information on Bureau employees who worked cases involving January 6th. That's causing concern among employees who think the Trump administration wants anyone involved to be fired. Driscoll is reportedly considering multiple options for his response. He could give them no information and simply say he's responsible for all Bureau employees. He may also provide the names of only senior executives. He could also hand over a detailed list of everyone involved. The demand was sent by Trump appointees at the Justice Department. Hey, the state treasurer's office here in Mississippi could have some of your money. National Unclaimed Property Day was celebrated over the weekend to bring awareness to the state's program to return millions of unclaimed dollars. State Treasurer David McRae says his office returned a record $40 million to Mississippi residents last year alone, and $125 million since he took office in 2020. Now, to find out if you have any unclaimed money, all you have to do is go to this website, treasury.ms.gov. And of course, that's something that's really important. I can tell you right now that I've had family members that have looked not just from Mississippi, but other states, lived in other states, and have been able to find unclaimed property. Sometimes it could be something like even stock options or things like that that you may not even realize that you had from a business that you worked. So it's always a good idea just to check that money. Sometimes there are things that if we worked at previous jobs, there's money attached to retirement accounts that we just didn't get or it got lost in the shuffle. The state treasurer's office, you'd be surprised sometimes what you might find there. One last story to tell you. Well, I tell you what, I always like to end with a positive story because of the technology hookups that we had today. We're going to do this fun story, but then I also want to go ahead and reiterate the top story we had earlier about the bribery scandal and everything else, just to make sure that everybody is caught up on this. We had some hiccups earlier, and I want to make sure we get this information out. But first, something positive. The Jackson Zoo and Jackson Public Schools have formed a new partnership. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is, I believe, the first year they've done this. Local schools can now adopt zoo animals. and help provide their support and care. Now, the zoo chooses the animals that schools adopt based on their mascots. For example, Callaway High School's adopted animal is the American cougar. Forest Hill has chimpanzees. Jim Hill, a Sumatran tiger. Lanier, the black bear. Murrah, a zebra. Provine has a rhino. And Jackson Middle College has flamingos and an ostrich. Now, the goal of this partnership is to help students learn about wildlife while fostering responsibility and environmental stewardship. And again, we are continuing to follow information about this bribery scandal that we first started reporting on back in May of last year when FBI agents descended upon a downtown Jackson business connected to Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owens and his office at the Hinds County Courthouse. Now, since that time, we had interviewed council members who said that the DA was arranging meetings between developers and council members trying to get support for a downtown a hotel project near the convention center. At the time, these council members felt that that was unusual. They speculated whether or not those developers may actually be undercover agents. Well, in the months that followed, we saw former Councilwoman Angelique Lee resign and plead guilty to bribery. We saw a business partner of Jody Owens, Sharik Marve Smith, plead guilty to bribery, and he's still awaiting sentencing, as is Lee. We also saw the announcement of indictments of charges against Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba, DA Jody Owens, and Ward 6 Councilman Aaron Banks in the months following our initial reporting. So there's been a lot going on here. One of the things that this indictment came out and mentioned when we started really seeing the federal government's case against these three elected officials was that when it came to evidence showing the alleged bribery to Mayor Lumumba specifically, there were five $10,000 campaign checks, five $10,000 campaign checks that were given to him in essence to help conceal that the money, the origin of that money was actually, was connected to the scandal, but it was made to look like payments from various other people to support his reelection campaign fund. This photo that was part of that indictment given to us from the FBI or from federal investigators shows Lumumba there with Jody Owens on the right. And in this photo, you can see the mayor holding an envelope that has these five $10,000 payments. Well, today, we actually have the campaign finance reports from that period of time that show who those were from. And so that's what we were talking about earlier. This, of course, after Lumumba got this, the FBI, federal investigators alleged that he then made a call to a city employee and asked them to move a deadline back that would basically give preferential treatment and allow this developer that they were meeting with in this photo to be able to have an advantage in getting this contract with the city. Now, those developers were actually FBI agents. This was a sting operation. When they were, this photo was taken on a yacht while these two individuals, these two elected officials, were in Miami, and so all this was happening months ago. These campaign finance documents show that the mayor received these five $10,000 checks and into his campaign fund. Now, we don't have proof that he withdrew it. The FBI or the federal investigators contend that he did, but we do know that most of those are linked to Owens in some form or fashion. Now, let me explain that. Let me break that down a little bit for you, because again, this is information that you're not going to see anywhere else. You probably see it later in the afternoon when everybody else sees that we've got it and they try to jump on the bandwagon too. But I will tell you right now, of these five payments, most of them are connected to Owens based on what we've seen. One of those came from the Downtown Cigar Company. Downtown Cigar Company is Owens' business. We know this because about a month and a half after this donation was made to Mayor Lumumba from Downtown Cigar Company, that business was raided by the FBI. Another came from Perinatal Services, PLLC. Now, that business is connected to Jody Owens, but it's also connected to his wife, Michelle. Michelle has not been mentioned in any of this up until now, but this is the first connection, and it could have just been a passive connection to conceal the source of the funds if they were indeed from the bribery scandal, because again, this is still being litigated. Then it looks like there were just names put on these payments to go ahead and get those out there. But Michelle is an OBGYN in Jackson, and I'm going to tell you, we know this from just the coverage that we've had. She serves on the state's board of medical licensure, so she serves in public positions. A third of those, one of those payments, those $10,000 payments, came from Shariq Marvay Smith, and that was Owen's business partner who pleaded guilty back in October to bribery. Later in federal court, two others appeared to be made out from individuals: Kevin J. May and Carrie L. Young. Now, we don't know who Kevin J. May is officially. We have reached out to try to find out. We're digging into that. Carrie L. Young appears to be a corporation, according to the Secretary of State's website, that has ties to a Bobby L. Owens. Now, public records indicate Bobby L. Owens is related to Jody, but we're not exactly sure how. But again, so you've got Shariq Marvay Smith, who was Owens' business partner. You've got Bobby Owens' company. You've got, Downtown Cigar Shop, and then you've got the company tied to Owens' wife. 4 of the 5 checks have direct connections to a relative of Owens or Owens' business dealings or Owens' business partner. And again, we don't know who Mr. May is. We don't know who Kevin J. May is. So here's a good question from the Mike magazine, my buddy. Whoa, who is Bobby? Okay. So full disclosure, we'll tell you, because we say a relative of Owens, the public records that we have viewed suggests that Bobby L. Owens could be one of 2 people. It's either Owens' father or Owens' brother. They both have the same name. Bob Owens is Jody's father. There's a Bobby L. Owens that also, according to public records, is Jody's brother. So because we don't know which it is, we're just saying a relative of Owens at this point, because we're not exactly sure who that is, and we want to be as accurate as possible. So public records show that appears to be a relative of Owens, but we're not exactly sure of the direct connection. Now, I want to remind you of this. Owens and Lumumba, as well as Ward 6 Councilman Aaron Banks, have all 3 pleaded not guilty here. This case is still ongoing. We probably won't see a trial date for this until 2026. So we're going to be reporting on this and the filings and various different machinations of this case for some time. So, hey, sit back, get some popcorn, relax, because we're going to be talking about this for a while. It's going to be a while before a jury sees this. During that time, you may see somebody start to work out a deal. We don't know that. We have no idea at this point whether or not anybody's going to take a deal. I can tell you that because the qualifying deadline for candidates running for mayor and city council in the city of Jackson, really all across the state, was Friday, Aaron Banks is not running for re-election. So whether or not he decides to take a plea deal, just depending on all that, we just know that he's not running for office again. Mayor Lumumba is running for re-election. And there's nobody else currently serving who has ties to this. Jody Owens just recently got reelected, so he wouldn't be coming up for reelection for some time. Mike Magazine asking once again, what happened to the January 6th court date? That was initially reported. So what ended up happening was they had to postpone it because they needed the government to declare the case was complex, which I'm sure that people who have passed the bar and are much more qualified legal perspectives could offer this. But for the sake of argument, that basically means that the case is far too complex to be rushed to trial. That there are so many aspects of that. Discovery, which is what happens, obviously once a criminal case is filed, both parties, the prosecution and defense, have to basically show discovery. The prosecution has to show the defense what they have. And if the defense discovers things along the way, there has to be sort of a mutual sharing of information. What the government has said is that there is so much information here that we're talking volumes of information. There very well be months and months and months of data, because you saw with those photos, there was obviously video surveillance. There's also audio surveillance, according to the indictment. So we're talking, there could be a lot of stuff here that they have to basically all go through and look at and figure out how they're going to attack this. It makes it a little more complex too when you have 3 defendants who are so intertwined in all this. Obviously, Aaron Banks has the least number of counts here, so there was speculation he may take a deal. We have not heard anything official. The mayor, I believe, is charged with 5 counts. And of course, Jody is charged with the most, but Jody's painted out to be a ringleader in all this, according to the government's case at this point. And so we don't know what all is going to come out over the course of months. I can tell you that it's probably going to be something that they I fully expect at some point we're going to get some sort of a ruling from a judge restricting our ability to see court filings until the trial date. This happened with the Marshawn Chrysler federal case. This happened with the Torrance Mayfield former Jackson police officer case. A lot of times these high-profile federal court cases, they don't want anything litigated in the media. They don't want, even though it's our job to report and we just get that information out there to let the public know about it, they feel like it could taint a jury pool, and so they will try to keep it secret and restrict and put everything under seal and try to make sure that we can't get that kind of information to be able to, do our jobs. So it makes it harder. It makes it a little bit more challenging. So it may be a situation where we don't really know much of anything for months and months and months, but we're going to continue following this story. It's just something, and I want to thank the Mike magazine here. That is very sweet. Says, we know who broke the story. Proud of you. Thank you so much. Anthony Warren, my colleague, and I, and we had several other reporters here who it was really a team effort with everything we did with trying to make sure. The challenge is just making sure that you can get that information out there. We had people telling us things, but you don't know what's true, what's not. You have to try to confirm things. It's a lot of stuff going on. And we're just trying to make sure that we get to the bottom of it and make sure that we can let you know what's going on too, because you have a right to know as taxpayers in Mississippi. If you live in Jackson, especially if you live in Hinds County, you deserve to know. And so it is something that we are really watching closely. Probably the biggest scandal that's rocked this area in recent years, dwarfed only by the TANF scandal, because again, that involved a lot more money. It involved a lot more far-reaching implications. This one involves several local elected officials. And the big question that a lot of people have been asking is, what made the feds look this direction in the first place? And the truth is, we don't know at this point. We have no idea. We're still trying to figure that out. And that is kind of the million-dollar question here. We need to know, what prompted the FBI to look. If you set up a sting operation, the implication is that you think that things are going on so frequently that you can just sort of set up a trap and catch somebody. And that is something that's probably going to be argued when this trial date comes around too. You look at the possibility of an entrapment argument, things like that. So we're going to hash those questions out and speculate as the trial gets closer what could possibly happen. But we're going to continue to stay on that. And of course, this goes to anybody. If you hear of anything or you think there's anything that we need to know about, let us know, because we definitely want to try to keep you in the loop and let you know. Now, I've had 3 people ask me for weather. So before we go, I'm going to do a really non-meteorology forecast. And I'm just going to pull up my phone. I'm using the First Alert Weather app, shameless plug. That's what I use because it's very good and it's very accurate. I mean, our hourly forecast right now in the Jackson area, we're looking at a 20% chance of rain until about 5 o'clock. And then it's mostly cloudy for most of the night. Looks like we're going to have a slight chance of rain tomorrow. We're having some cloudy days ahead of us, but temperatures today, high in the mid 70s. Tomorrow we could get up into the low 80s. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of unusual, right? We're first week of February and we're having 70s and 80s, but I don't have weatherman skills. Mike Magazine, you're very kind. But yeah, the weather is the most important thing. Is it doesn't look like we're going to have any severe weather, at least for the rest of this week. And we don't have, at least at this point, from what we've talked to Dave and some of the other members of the First Alert Weather team, it doesn't look like we have any plans for alert dates at this point. So that's a very good thing. We have the next chance for rain, according to our 10-day forecast, is going to be on Sunday. And hey, we'll see what happens. But I can tell you this, keep it here, keep it online, make sure to watch Wlbt. And whenever there's severe weather, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you're protected. It doesn't matter what's on, by the way. We'll break into any kind of programming we need to make sure that our residents are safe. So I believe we're going to have another weather report this afternoon. I'm not sure exactly of the schedule. I think we have something at 2:30. So if you want to be able to get in on that, we certainly appreciate you watching. I'm going to be here the rest of the week for Kara. She is taking a much needed vacation, and I hopefully will be a little less awkward tomorrow. So I appreciate you for joining us today. Sorry about the hiccups in the beginning, but we're going to try to make sure that's a little more smooth next time. Kara's a master at this. She makes it look so easy. I'm just filling in. So thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you, and have a great Tuesday.